And with that, Sarah Schatz, I am so thrilled to have her on my team, our team. She's a joy, and has been running the Jewish Women's Foundation for more than 5 years, because I've been here for 5 years and she's been running it the whole time that I've been here. Um, and is fabulous and devoted to it. And I'm going to turn it over to her. Thank you all so much. And I'm going to mute myself and start enjoying the conversation.
Thank you, Beth, so much. And as Beth mentioned, it is my pleasure to oversee the Jewish Women's Foundation. I'm absolutely thrilled to be working closely with our chair, Karen Foster Silverman, and our volunteers who serve on our council as representatives of all of our members. The Jewish Women's Foundation is a fund of the Jewish Community Foundation of San Diego and was established 15 years ago by Jan Tettleman of blessed memory and 17 founding members. I'd like to acknowledge Jan's many significant contributions to JWF, her quest for continued learning and passion for supporting the needs of Jewish women and girls. Continue to guide our work. Jan remains in our hearts. JWF is an example in our community of women coming together to specifically address the needs of Jewish women and girls. This group is more than 70 women, function very similarly to a giving circle. JWF assesses community needs by working with Jewish agencies, synagogues, and schools. Our perspective is informed by life experiences as daughters, mothers, professionals, community leaders, and entrepreneurs. With these funds, we have funded projects aiding victims of domestic violence, single mothers, teens, and isolated older Jewish women in San Diego. And currently, and for the first time ever, JWF is supporting 2 programs in Israel, along with 2 local programs. Karen will provide an update about the amazing things the organizations are doing in just this first year. To that end, if you are not yet a member of the Jewish Women's Foundation, please consider joining our commitment to make the world a better place for women and girls. I would now like to welcome Karen Foster Silverman, current chair of JWF, currently serving on the Jewish Community Foundation board and a volunteer extraordinaire.
Muted.
Thanks, Marcy. It's wonderful to have my sister here. She brought me into the Jewish Women's Foundation, and she continues to help me through so many things in my life, including unmuting me. Although it's wonderful to see so many of my close women friends in my personal life and in my professional life here today. And so many of the women who have guided me and mentored me and continue to guide me and mentor me. And as Sarah mentioned, we are JWF in our first year of our new initiatives, as we selected 4 really incredible and unique organizations as our beneficiaries. And I'll begin with an update on our Israeli beneficiaries. The council had the opportunity to have a Zoom update from these beneficiaries earlier. And the first one is Shavot, which is women's leadership. And Shavot launched 4 alumni groups in the fall in cities where their mentoring programs took place last year: Jerusalem, Bat Yam, Rabat Gan, and Rehovot. Each group had 10 participants who worked together as a group and individually each week. The girls took part in Israel Girls Week in December, which is a nationwide event that took place in more than 250 schools around Israel. Their next program will be the hackathon, scheduled in April. The girls will present their projects and start with the execution phase. JWF's funding helped Shavot begin the 4 alumni groups, and the program has been so popular that they're considering their model to be able to expand to 13 plus locations. The other is Impact Israel, the Israel Elite Young Women's Leadership Program. This year, Impact Israel welcomed their 9th cohort to the Israel Elite hard to pronounce, ISRA Elite Young Women's Leadership Program. 28 young women between the ages of 18 to 20 years old have chosen to go through a transformative experience and defer their mandatory military service, basically a gap year. The girls elected a committee to lead this advocacy program, and they decided that their final topic would be environmental advocacy. On December 8th, they held a meeting with local leaders, followed by a full-day event in January to learn more about environmental issues and chose which specific environmental topic to tackle. And now, our local beneficiaries. Beth Jacob Congregation. What they've done is they have adopted the national program of moving traditions, Rosh Chodesh, into the Orthodox community. And they're adapting the Rosh Chodesh program for the Orthodox movement. They've taken a cohort of 8th and 9th graders, the program to be applicable for them. It was supposed to launch in January, but has been delayed until February with the Omicron virus spike. They have 5 families signed up with more interested, and the first cohort will have no more than 10 young women in it. The program launched recently with a parent meeting, and the inaugural teen session will take place next week. Their plan is to implement 4 sessions with 1 session per month corresponding to Rosh Chodesh, the new Jewish month, through the end of the school year. We're very excited about this program for them. We welcome the young Orthodox young women into the program, and we welcome the Orthodox community into the Jewish Women's Foundation. Jewish Women International, Financial Fitness. Financial fitness seeks to empower young women with the confidence to achieve long-term economic security, the resiliency to meet financial challenges, and the motivation to become decision makers. The first Financial Fitness series was launched in November, and there are 15 women participating in the series. 7 of these women have not attended a local Jewish event before Financial Fitness. The first session covered the participants' feelings about money, eliminating fear from those conversations, and setting goals. The second session covered budgeting, credit, and debt. JWI is currently developing a 2.0 version of the Financial Fitness series. Our facilitator, and I'm now going to turn you over to Julie Dubik. Julie Dubik is our facilitator today. Julie is active and involved in the philanthropic community of San Diego. Julie recently served on our JWF Grants Committee and soon after became a member of JWF. Amongst many of her volunteer positions, way too many to name here today, she is the former board chair of the Monarch School for Homeless Children, a former Civil Rights Committee chair and volunteer fundraiser, the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, a former governance chair and board member for San Diego and Imperial County Girl Scouts. Something you may not know about Julie is she is a contributing author to 2 books. The Workers, Ralph Nader, my particular favorite, and probably a good read for most of you in this audience, is Harder in Heels, raising productive children on a working woman's schedule. Thank you, Julie, for your participation today.
Thanks, Karen, and welcome to everyone. It's just a pleasure to see everyone, and it will be a pleasure to physically embrace everyone the next time we do this, who I know we're all excited about. We have a terrific panel with us who will be introduced very shortly. I want to just review that we're here today to talk about understanding and dealing with some difficult times. Just to review, let's talk about it as a mission of the Jewish Women's Foundation, brings education and difficult subjects to the community in a safe, nurturing, and meaningful environment. And to review where we've been, we had a let's laugh about it right in the middle of COVID when we could still laugh about it, or needed to. Substance abuse, LGBTQ community, women's productive health, and now navigating change. We know today that many of us are at our wits' end with COVID, and who more than moms of school-age children. The Atlantic did a wonderful article recently, which I think is attached to the materials. COVID parenting has passed the point of absurdity. And the article makes its point by talking about a group of moms in Boston who get together on the very limited free time they have to meet in January in the winter, socially distanced, to scream, literally to scream, because they're having such a hard time trying to balance and deal with the burdens of stabilizing their families in an unstable time with inconsistent messaging and the like. So everybody needs a community to help when you're in that kind of a situation. And for today, please feel free to scream. Okay, no one felt free to do that, but please feel free. I guess you're all muted. Or wait until the end when we are going to have a wonderful active conclusion and exit by Alex, which I'm looking forward to. So let me start by encouraging all of you to ask questions in chat, and we will have an opportunity to answer them near the end of the conversation. And let me start by asking Marcia Berkson, our strengths coach, to introduce herself and spend a little bit of time talking about what her observations have been for the collective experience and how people are reacting to the ever-changing environment in their personal and professional lives. Marcia.
All right. Well, thank you for the introduction. And I wear two hats in this organization. I wear a hat as a member, and now I'm wearing a hat as a panelist. So as a member, I want to say, I believe I was a founding member along with Jan, who was a close friend. So it's wonderful to be amongst the sisterhood and to see everybody. And I only wish that I was, we were in person to give a hug. So to all of you, I'm sending my my hugs my virtual hugs your way. Great to see you. And now I'll put on this hat as a panelist and speak to you about what I'm seeing. So they asked me to tell a little bit about my story first. So let me first start there. I pulled this quote from Ben Franklin, which is, out of adversity comes opportunity. And that's kind of how I found my life. In my early 50s, I was separated and I was in business with my husband. So I was kind of like out of work. And I took a step back and, looked at what now, what next for me. And I knew I could take my skills and my experience, but really what I was trying to find was what was going to make me feel purpose and make me feel fulfilled. And so there I was, doing some strategic planning for an organization for Susan G. Komen, and they asked me to facilitate their staff retreat. And I came upon an assessment, I'm going to talk about it a little later, called StrengthsFinder. And I started to facilitate it and then started to coach some of the people understanding their strengths. And I said, I have found my calling. So I really reinvented myself at that age. And so for anybody who sits at a crossroads and transition in their life, know that you can always reinvent yourself, tapping into some of your skills and experience, but really finding what brings you purpose. I learned that my strength is positivity, one of my strengths. So of course, I love bringing out the best of people, and I love people seeing their power and edge and how they can leverage that in a most productive way. So I love what I do. I am in a moment of perpetual growth. So that's enough of me, but so let's get on with the question that Julie proposed, and as to what I see with a lot of my clients who are we're struggling. These have been really tough times for all of us. So I'm gonna talk about the question. I'm gonna put the question forth so you all remember it, and then I'm gonna break it down. So the question was, how are people reacting to an ever-changing environment, both in their personal and private lives? And I want to first say that people may feel different at work or different at home, and maybe even during COVID, kind of those boundaries were all blurred because we were all at home and work at the same place. But really, we choose to sometimes leverage different strengths at home versus different strengths at work. But honestly, we would find a sense of fulfillment if we looked at ourselves as a whole person, and we are who we are. So I'm going to give you that food for thought. So during our time together, I'm going to kind of thread 3 observations that I have and propose a few questions for you to noodle around, because as coaches, we are always asking questions. I'm even going to ask for a little bit of a chat participation here. So I hope everybody will be able to participate in there. So I'm going to first focus on this word that Julie framed in this question, which is ever-changing. Yeah, and I'm going to take you back to March of 2020, right, which was threw us all in chaos, right? No matter where you were on the spectrum of being organized, type A, or go with the flow, you were completely, through a curveball. And you had to go into survival mode. I mean, how many, do you remember just even basic needs that we had to take care of, like toilet paper? And yeah, right. I see a lot of shaking of the heads on that one. I mean, do you remember walking into the grocery store and I'm seeing these empty shelves and I'm thinking, am I in my country? I mean, it was such a surreal experience. And it really rocked us to our core. And as women, here we are carrying so many of the burden and that heavy shoulders of our family. We had to really do the great pivot and tap into being flexible and being adaptable to what was going on. And not only that, is we had to manage our emotions, what was going on, physical, spiritual, financial, and we also had to manage a lot of others going on. Malka was telling the story that when she was teaching class and her children were all on their Zoom, they would come in and need help, and she'd have to say to her classroom, sorry, gotta go. I remember as a coach having people with children on their laps. It's just the way it needed to be. Everybody had to adapt. And we actually all kind of said it's okay, which was really nice that there was this this openness and this of people understanding each other. And so what was there? It was like this lack of control. What did control mean? What is control? What is that shift of control? What does this great pivot look like? And what I want to ask you as part of thinking about this great pivot and being adaptable in these times, what you had to do, did you go back to your old habits? Or are you still being able to be adaptable and comfortable with maybe the shift of a lack of control and going with the flow? What is going on for you right now when you think about that? So there's one of my questions for you. So now as the dust kind of got settled a little bit after the pandemic or during the pandemic, I'm talking maybe summer of 2020, what did we do? We decided we had to prioritize, and we had to decide what is important and what we needed to give up. And I hate to use that trite cliche of we had to put our masks on before our children's or before everybody else's. You know what they say to you when you're in an airplane and the flight attendant gives that little speech, put your mask on. We had to put our mask on, right? And with that, we also had to prioritize. And we had to give ourselves permission to use a word that we don't usually like to use as women, because we like to say we can shoulder everything. And what was that word? No, can't do this, don't want to do this, am not going to do this anymore. So I want you to think about that no. And when you said that no, I can't tell you how many times I coach people who felt so empowered being able to say no to things they didn't want to do, finally being able to do that. So if you're on a computer and you can go into the chat, I would love for you to say to me, what did I say no to? And it felt great. So yeah, I won't call names, but please just chat so everybody can kind of feel that they felt empowered to say no. And I'm going to ask you to come on. I'm not seeing anything. Put it in the chat. What did you say no to? I said no to certain friends. I said, you know what? I can only prioritize so much. What did people say no to? Not going out to dinner. There you go. Right. Or not working too hard, kind of managing time. What else did people say no to? What else did people say no to? Social events. Right. My boyfriend loved to go to the movies. I said, no, I'm not going to the movies anymore. Can't. No, I will watch things on demand. Yeah. Yes to my kids, no to work. No to the movies, right? Yep, there's someone who agrees with me. All right, there you go. And didn't it feel great to be able to prioritize and be able to say no? So here's my next question for you. Are you still saying no? Or did you kind of go back into that habit of, oh yeah, okay, and let some things in that you really just don't want to do? We talked a little bit before people were getting on about, comfort with COVID restrictions, and everybody has to feel comfortable and say no to certain things that they don't want to participate in. And that's okay. That's okay. That's kind of accepting. So first one is, have I been adaptable, right? And the next is, am I still prioritizing what's important to be for me and for my family? So the next piece I want to thread here is opening up the vulnerability cloak and asking for help. It's really interesting how life situations kind of are dealt to us. Let's say where people offer help and we absolutely take it in. Where maybe it's a simcha and we're overloaded with all of the things that happen, and someone says, can I do the brunch? Can I do the Shabbat dinner? And you welcome that in, and that feels really great. Or maybe it's, during a Shiva and people are there for you, bringing, coming to Shiva, bringing meals and all of that, and you're taking that in. But here we were thrown into this situation. We were all in the same, circumstances where we had to be a recipient and we also had to be a giver. And being able to reach out and say, can you help? Can you listen? I need your support. I'm drowning, and not feeling judged and not feeling like we failed because we asked for help. And whether we asked each other or our significant other or our children or our family. And that felt empowering. As I coached people, they felt like they let a load off of their shoulders being able to turn and ask people for help. So what I want you to think about is, here we are still in this new normal. Before I pass this baton, have you kept that vulnerability cloak open for you a little bit, or have you closed it again? And what is comfortable for you? And how can you reboot that? What do you need to do for yourself moving forward? If this is the time for the new normal, taking a look at being adaptable, prioritizing, and vulnerability, letting it in, being okay with that. How does that feel in your life as you move forward? So I am going to pass the baton back to Julie, and look forward to hearing the next group of speakers. It was wonderful, again, speaking to you guys, and looking forward to some questions later.
Thank you, Marsha. I already feel enlightened and more thoughtful. But I want to turn this over and have Alex von Frank introduce herself and talk about creating something during COVID, which is a very hard thing to do, the international presence for yoga and meditation, and tell us more about it. And I'm sure how it helped everyone you came in contact with, Alex.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Marsha. That was very insightful. So I wanted to speak a little bit about how also this global shutdown happened, because a lot of my students are also international in the Netherlands and Italy. I have a few in Asia as well. But I felt, I'm sure we all felt, a social deprivation, if you will. And certainly our children have felt it. Felt it. And our elders, those, those who have parents who are lucky enough to still have parents alive, we've all kind of felt this global depression and isolation. And I found it, while we are all connecting on this level of we're all going through the same thing, it has highlighted the problems we were having beforehand. And the problems that we were having beforehand was this advancement of technology, this advancement of always being on, always being at work. Luckily, as Jews, we have Shabbat, so we are commanded to take a day off. And if you think about it, that is the most wise thing to do, especially in this era of constantly on. Back when I was a kid, the only people who were on all the time were doctors, but even then they had days off. So it feels like all of us with the technology have turned into always on. So I noticed that everybody was always staying up on the latest COVID news, the latest this, the latest that, and everything seems like it's been running from emergency to emergency. It's like the world is on fire. Even today, when I picked up my newspaper, oh, you can't see it quite, but New York Times, war in the Ukraine. How are we to live a life amongst all this chaos? And my answer was, and certainly in my yoga practice here in Hillcrest, I didn't have any more classes. We shut down. So I had a huge loss. But the biggest loss was that heart to heart feeling of being with my students. My students range from children to elders, and just fielding calls from them of, I'm feeling lost, I'm feeling distressed. Some of my clients were walking miles a day to try to calm themselves from all of this global anxiety and depression, and also the grief of not having personal connections anymore. And if you think about it, we've had to reset ourselves and really be off of being social and having all the usual ways of dealing with things. So in this craziness, I decided to start meditation, and I did this partly in answer to all the chaos that's going on, because while everything is coming at you, and if you are not focused and if you are not clear, all of it ends up whipping people into mental distress. And I've seen a lot of mental health issues lately. There are people road raging more than ever I've seen before. And I think, honestly, the meditation has helped, because if we can get centered a little bit more, we don't have to necessarily control everything that's around us, because the more you try to control your environment, the more you're obsessed and the more harmful it can be for your mental state. So I can't tell you enough how much it has meant to people to just sit even on Zoom and be quiet yet together. And it doesn't matter the language, it doesn't matter what's going on. Even in our meditations, when we do it, the dogs will be barking, the spouses will be, where's my socks? It's hilarious what comes up. But just sitting with that, sitting with how life is coming at you and constantly calling you is refreshing, to know that you are part of this, but you don't have to be taken by this craziness. So I've found it so touching how it's been able to reach people and heal them. So in that light, I know all of us are very much involved in Tikkun Olam, but for me, this journey of having the meditation has been a tikkun halev. And if you can't take care of your heart first, you cannot take care of the world. So we all must do our little part of doing the heart, doing the inner work, so that we are more effective to do the outer work. So, yeah. So this inner work of meditation, it's funny, it takes a lot of focus in just watching how the mind, the body, and the spirit are. And there is no worthier thing that you can be doing, especially for the people around you who may not have the ability to sit and meditate, but reaching that state of flow, you will find so much available when you go out to be effective in the world. And yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just reflecting on this past 2 years of craziness. And I must say it's been extraordinary, because those who have been able to do the work of the inner work have had such a better time navigating these rough waters, if you will. So so if I may, can I ask how many of you meditate, and how has it been going for you? If you could write that on the chat, I'm very curious. So I do meditation and yoga. So it's kind of, the yogic lifestyle is very much about the focus. So, oh, I see everyone writing. Thank you. And also, if you have any questions for me, I am ready to take questions as well. You started during COVID, Jessica. Fantastic. Meditation. Not successful. That's really interesting. That's a lot of people say that. And it's a lot like finding the right teacher. Don't give up because you have the wrong teacher or you have the wrong method. There are many methods, just as there are many characters of people. I pray daily and reflect on my gifts and gratitude. That is a form of meditation, Malka. I love that. Especially for me, when I get into davening, you feel that flow, that quintessential spark in the soul and the body, and things begin to align. And this is why meditation and prayer are so similar. Jean, of course you meditate. She's one of my meditators. And Andrea as well at our Shalom. Every day I change to the kind. Very good, Carla. I love that. I'm walking meditation. Very good. Yes, I am so glad that all of you are changing up the meditations and the way you do it, because there are so many varieties, and it's so essential. Meditation is more within the music, and that's how you connect. Good. I'm glad. I am glad that there are so many methods to meditate, and I am glad that people are now coming into it, because like I said, this is Tikkun Halev. It's about taking care of yourself. And if we don't do that essential, like Marcia said, saying no is very much taking care of yourself. So swimming in the ocean. So there's thank you, Jerry Ann. Yes, instruments. It's how I relax myself. It's interesting. Sometimes your meditation can be very relaxing, but other times meditation is sitting in the difficult. So there are times that we are very agitated, and that's when I welcome people also to sit with it and to really acknowledge the difficult feelings that come up, because the more you acknowledge it, the more you can respond in a skillful manner rather than reacting to a situation. And this is especially essential. I have 2 kids, and they're both entering teenagehoods. And boy, am I seeing this, that teenage angst, and then the automatic response. And I'll look at them, especially if, they're getting cheeky with me. And I'll look at them and I said, did you really want to respond in that tone? And it's amazing how all of a sudden, they took that breath and they noticed. So thank you everyone for, oh, my manicure said the meditation guide. Your voice, I love it. Yes, using your voice. Meditation saves you. Thank you, everyone. I love hearing that meditation is so helpful, and especially for our kids and our elders. So I love that we are taking these moments to really quiet down. And later, to end all of this, I'll take you through a more energetic meditation so that we can go forth and do great things. All right, thank you. Julie, I give it back to you.
Thank you. That was beautiful in so many ways, Alex. Thank you so much. And we look forward to concluding with you. But of course, we are very interested in what's been going on with all our children. And Malka Weisner will tell you a little bit about herself and talk about what she's observed from her students at Hebrew Day, their emotional and social behavior, their stress levels, how they're treating one another. Such an important topic.
Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate it. First of all, I just want to start by saying thank you. This is my first, I guess, my first experience with JWF. And I think I'm going to be a participating member moving forward. So thank you. This has been really, really special. I've loved hearing what Marcia and Alex have said. It was something that I needed to hear and things I needed to reflect on. So thank you very much for that. I also like to thank Julie Datnow and Jessica Egris for getting me on board. And I really appreciate your patience. And Sarah Schatz, thank you so much for following up with me on my crazy schedule. So I hail from the Midwest, although my teaching career, I've been teaching for over 22 years. I taught on the East Coast, but I've taught in the Midwest and I've taught on the West Coast. And I have 4 children of my own, ranging from 15 all the way down to 7, 2 boys and 2 girls. And I've been in education. It's been my dream since I was a teenager. So it's something that has been always a path for me that I've always wanted to be on. I've always gravitated, if I walk into a room and there's a whole bunch of adults, but there's a group of children, I generally gravitate to the kids. They're fascinating. They are innocent and full of life. And I really do love what I do. It's very, very special to my heart. And I've worked mostly in community schools with a very diverse community of Jews. And I've taught both Judaic and secular studies, but my heart lies with the Judaic studies because it's something that, promotes values and works with children on growing themselves, not just academically, but also emotionally, which I think that is something that has come into play this year, these last few years during the pandemic. Although it's always been a part of me and a part of what I do on a daily basis, I think that it really has affected the kids in both positive and trying ways. Honestly, I always start with a positive because that's just who I am. Things that I've seen from the kids over the course of this time is over the top celebrations for each other. Birthdays matter more than anything else now when we're in school. They bring presents for each other and they talk to each other about it. And we make, it's a big deal when we talk about the value of life and the value of each year that we spend on this world and how we can contribute to it. So it's really beautiful to see that. They really appreciate moments more. And they also have, whether that's good or bad, but I think that I've spun it for the good for my students, is they have more of a depth to them because they've been thrust, so to speak, into a difficult situation. So they've had to grow up just a little bit. And so a lot of them have matured or have started to think about things that we might not have thought about until they were older teens. Now they're thinking about those things, and I can have deeper conversation with 5th graders than I've been able to have in the past. I've taught all grades from 3rd through 12th, and I've done adult education. So I've seen the gamut, and it's really special to see how mature they've become. And they're just so happy to be in person. Like the kids who have had the opportunity to come back to school, they're just so happy to be together that it just makes me so happy to be with them. And they've kind of adjusted to the new normal. Like I was telling some of the ladies that were on earlier before we started that, you know, I was talking to my students yesterday and they said, they called me Mora Wiser, which Mora means teacher. They said, Mora Wiser, I don't remember a time when I didn't have to wear masks at school. It's like normal to me. So as much as that makes all of us adults, you know, a little bit sad to hear, because we know what life was like before they had, you know, these mandates and things in school, we could see that they're doing, you know, they're doing okay. For the most part, the majority of them are doing okay. However, there are things to work on, and there are very difficult things that have happened with children that I've seen. My husband and I have been involved, and he's also an educator, and we've been involved with different age groups ranging from very young all the way to teens. And we've seen a lot of different things happen. Most of my reflections are things like regular pleasantries with kids, and politeness. And I'm not talking about the fact they don't say please or thank you all the time. I'm talking about things like acknowledging a person's existence. Like you walk down the hallway, they've been in front of a screen for so long, and they've been stuck in their house with their family for so long, for example, that, you know, you forget to say good morning. You forget that saying hello is a normal thing for you to say. So working with kids on that has been something that has been a very big focus of myself and my colleagues. Before COVID, you know, this also was a problem because kids are in front of screens. We talked about that earlier also. And I love what Marcia and Alex have said about those kind of things. The fact that there's like a wall up, you know, that we've already created pre-COVID that was exacerbated by COVID because it created another barrier, especially with the masks. It gave kids the opportunity, or I don't know if necessarily if it's an opportunity, but the ability to be able to hide more. And so even parents and kids communicate more through screens. I have a teenage daughter who's 15 and she just got her first cell phone last year, and I text her sometimes to tell her things. You know, she's at school or she's somewhere else, or I just want to tell her something really fast that I remembered and she's not near me. I might text her as opposed to having a conversation. I think that's become like the new normal. So, you know, things that we have done during COVID we've talked about priorities, you know, before is, I mean, we've always been like this, but we have family dinner every night in our house. And it's become even more of a big deal over COVID because we feel like we need that time. So that's like, to me, that's something that I've encouraged parents, because I am a teacher, and that means I'm not just working with their kids, I'm also working with the parents as well. And it's something I've encouraged parents to do, is find times to have face-to-face conversations with your kids about it. There's been a little bit more visible judgmental behavior, especially with, you know, people being very wary because the fear was real when this whole thing started. And so, you know, people, I don't want to say like mask shaming or, you know, things like, you know, talking like, oh gosh, I think they have the sniffles. What if they have COVID? You know, like talking to kids about not being so judgmental with each other. And trying to give benefit of the doubt to people and understand why people are doing things and working towards a better relationship between each other. And also one of the things that I've noticed is that there's so many varied opinions out there in general, but I think that it's been exacerbated by the pandemic. Kids find themselves confused. What do I believe? What do I not believe? And oftentimes I find myself in the position of having kids come and ask me my opinion on things. And I am of a school of thought where I do not share my opinion with the kids because it's not my right to raise those kids to have an opinion. I teach them my subject matter and I try to inspire them. But that's why my relationship with parents has become even stronger over the pandemic, because I feel like it's my responsibility as a teacher. And I feel like all of us should feel that way, that to have a relationship with a teacher that's teaching your children, because they spend a lot of time with your kids during the day. So being able to have conversations with your teacher, the teacher expressing what's been expressed in class, so that the parents can have those discussions at home, especially because I'm teaching them Torah and Judaics and Jewish values. So being able to communicate those things with the parents as clearly as I possibly can so they can continue those conversations at home with the kids is truly important to me and to my colleagues. And so to me, dealing with all these things with children, they worry about their families or family members. They worry about illness. I've seen kids do that. Some worry about missing school because like I was just saying earlier to some of the women, that I had a student who tested positive last week. And thank God, now she doesn't have to miss that much school. She has a modified quarantine. She can come back after 6 days with a mask on inside and outside, and she doesn't have to miss so much school. It causes a lot of anxiety, especially as kids get older, when they're in middle school and high school. I've taught all those ages, missing being in person and missing material. And also the Zoom options have kind of dissipated because people are, Zoom exhausted. And so all those options are kind of falling away. So when kids miss those things, they miss out on opportunities to be able to learn. And they feel it's like the way I used to describe to parents dropping your kids off late to school. I'm saying, when you drop your kid late off to school, they walk into class and they feel lost, and it creates anxiety for them. So it's the same thing when they miss class. There's anxiety that rises up in kids because they miss those opportunities. And there have been, kids in our school and in other places that I've seen that have struggled with social anxiety coming back into an environment, especially the kids that stayed on Zoom longer than other kids and came back in the middle of the year last year. So to me, how many of you, I want to pose questions because I feel like it's important that we have a conversation. How many of you, I know we have different varied ages here. People have children, grandchildren. How many of you have a conversation eye to eye, whether it be with your children or with another individual, and really make eye contact with them on a daily basis? Right? It's very hard to, that's one thing that I work with my students. A lot of my students, they have a very hard time making eye contact with each other because of the fact that they've been behind a screen for so long, or it's not something that's been pushed or practiced. You can ask any one of my 5th graders when they come into my classroom, whether it's at the door or it's when we start off with tefillah every morning with davening. I walk over to each one of their desks, I bend down and I say a few of the words of the tefillah with them. And then I look in their eyes and I wish them good morning. I might pat them on the head or the shoulder and say, it's really nice to see you, while they're davening. Just to make sure that they're getting that. So it's really important that we make those connections with individuals around us, but specifically with our kids, with our grandkids, whatever, wherever you are in the chapter of your life, to make those connections with them again. Now that we have that, I talk about the idea of self-reflection all the time. I mean, think about, as Jewish women and as Jewish people, the first thing we're supposed to do when we get out of bed in the morning is we're supposed to say, Moda ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, she'achazarta bi nishmati, rabba emunatecha. And to me, it's a very beautiful phrase because you're basically saying thanks to God for giving you another opportunity to make a difference in the world, right? Because the end phrase is rabba emunatecha, which means great is your faith. And our commentators tell us that it's talking about that we're telling Hashem, great is your faith in me. That you, so to speak, checked on me overnight while I was sleeping. And you said, you know what? Marsha Berkson deserves another chance to make a difference in the lives of other people, to coach them to make a difference. So I want Marsha Berkson to be in the world today. Marsha Berkson, are you going to take that opportunity? And Marsha opens her eyes and she says, Moda'ani. And she says, it's basically like your battle cry. I'm ready to go, Hashem. Thank you for giving me. I'm ready. Thank God for giving me the ability to move on and to go forward. And lastly, the idea of just active listening, we talk about not interrupting each other. In our school, we have something called responsive classroom, which we already had adopted prior to COVID, but now it's like my favorite thing. It's my favorite part of the day with my students. I love teaching my material, don't get me wrong, but just having fun conversations. For those of you who aren't familiar, you could do that in your house around your dinner table. Basically what responsive classroom is that you have, it's like a grown-up circle time, okay? So the kids sit around in a circle and you have 3 or 4 parts to it, depending on how you wanna do it. You always have a greeting, you always have a sharing part, and you always have an activity of some sort. And so I'll give you an example of something that I do. So we have a class handshake, right? So the kids have to do the class handshake, and then they have to hold each other's hands and look in each other's eyes, eye to eye, and say good morning to each other. Right. And at first, at the beginning of this year, even, it was hard for them to do it, but now they make eye contact. And then after that, we do sharing. We ask them a question that is something that they could reflect on. Sometimes it's like fun, like, would you rather do this or would you rather do that? And say, would you rather snow or would you rather be at the beach? You know what I mean? But sometimes it's even deeper than that. This morning, we asked the question, if somebody was bothering your younger brother who might have disabilities, right? I pull it from, I have all these like cool little containers with choices and what ifs, and I asked, how would you stand up for your brother? And we talked about different kids had very, very strong feelings towards it and different kids didn't. And we talked about it. We talked through it together. And then we play a game just to have fun together and enjoy each other's company. And it's great for technique. So what are some of the things that you might do, you are already doing, or have you gotten back to doing with you? Or I want to hear from you guys, with your children, with your grandchildren, with people that are close to you, some traditions that you've created perhaps over COVID, that I'd love to hear it in the chat and reflect on that for a moment. And then I'll pass it back to Julie.
Thank you so much, Malka. Your work is amazing. And I think we'll keep an eye on our chat, and we'll move to our next set of questions so the panelists can share their wisdom. And we love the interaction. Thank you, Alex, for the suggestions. So let's take about 3 minutes, and let me put out a question to all the panelists, and feel free to respond as you want. So can you share for our group tools that you've used either with your clients or your students, and ways to navigate unfamiliar feelings and emotions? And let me just throw it back to Marcia for a minute, and then all of you.
Okay. I mentioned earlier that kind of my beginning into coaching was really finding a tool which is called Clifton Strengths, and it's a very easy to access on the internet. You take an assessment, it's 177 questions, 20 seconds to answer to get your natural recurring pattern of who you are. And I love it because people are so fixated on on their weaknesses or who they're not, as opposed to embracing who they are. So part of like getting through those emotions and unfamiliar feelings is, wait a second, I love this about myself. Yes, no wonder I love to learn. No wonder this is how I engage with people. And all of a sudden there's a shift in how they can embrace themselves. And that can be a really positive conversation. Like I said, it's a really easy tool. It's $20. You pull your top 5. It's $50 to pull your full 34. Great report. I know a lot of you on the screen have done their strengths. There, Beth is holding her mug up proudly. Yes, there, her woo, futuristic. Yeah, all these. And see,
those are my 10. I drink from them every morning, and they sort of center me when I start my workday. And I actually have one in my office and one at home, which I got at the pandemic, because some mornings I was starting at home and some mornings I start in the office. But every morning I start with a reminder and a centering around my strengths.
Yes, thank you for that great testimonial. There you go. So it's a great tool, like I said, easy to access. And I'm there if anybody would like a little bit of a download of what it means after they get their assessment, contact me, absolutely available. So
are you saying, Marcia, that you can do this on the internet yourself?
Yep, it's a Gallup product. Gallup are the polling people.
Yeah.
So it's called Clifton Strengths. It's by Gallup, and you can go on and do it yourself. And like I said, it's only $20 to get your top 5, and you will feel really just really inspired and motivated when you understand who you are, and embrace that, as opposed to saying who I'm not and why aren't they doing it this way and why aren't I like that person.
As they say, it's important what we say to ourselves.
That's right. And it starts with self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
And embracing that. So
we had a to interrupt before I pass it on to panelists. We had a number of lovely responses to Malka's question, and just a lovely one from Marcia. We had our children and grandchildren over for brunch or dinner outdoors weekly. It was hard not to hug them, but we were able to, it's such joy to stay in touch, which is wonderful. And then Mandy is on her way to school. She and her son share two things we are grateful for. And I mean, that's so wonderful. So let me turn back over to tools with your students or clients for unfamiliar feelings or emotions. And Alex or Malka?
Alex, go ahead.
Thank you, Malka. Tools, 5-minute walk in the morning. As soon as you get up, just put on any kind of clothing, put your shoes on, go out, walk outside your door for 5 minutes out, 5 minutes in. Just moving the body and getting some of that early morning light is so very important. And just looking around, noticing things, noticing the birds, the change of the season, all of that, super important. And while I'm taking 5 minutes, take 5 minutes also to just sit quietly and say, what am I feeling right now in this moment? And inviting in the difficult or all the emotions that may come up. Sometimes we're angry, we're frustrated, and it's really important to acknowledge those feelings so that we can more skillfully deal with those feelings. So gratitude is very important every night before bed or upon rising. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to wake up this morning, as Malka had mentioned, and thank you for having the faith in me. And as I go to bed at night, I always give thanks for even the chaos, because it's through this chaos in this pressure cooker that we're really truly beginning to see the diamonds in our community, the people who are standing up and doing great things, and how better to support all of that by acknowledging it, even the greatness within yourself. Every day you do great things, all of you, I know you do. So just taking a moment for gratitude, and also extending that gratitude and really telling the people around you that you are honored to know them and honored that you are part of this great mystery, and how we're all holding each other. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you, Malka.
Thank you. So I did give a number of tools. I think I went a little bit crazy. I told everybody to watch me, but anyways, I do feel like the regular everyday sitting around the table, making sure that you reach out to people. One of the tools that, first of all, I want to tell you guys, I started taking notes as soon as you guys started sharing the stuff that you're doing, and I really plan on implementing them in my own life. The things that you guys have chosen to do with your families, these are great ideas, fantastic things that I thought of, but you need to be re-inspired. So thank you for that. But one of the things that I think somebody mentioned earlier in the chat was they like to journal. I think that when Alex or when Marcia were speaking, somebody mentioned journaling. So one of the things I've been doing with my students, which you might want to do as a family, is journaling what you're grateful for with your kids. I've been doing that with my 5th grade. I know other teachers have adopted it in their classrooms here at Keep the Day. Just journaling one thing you're grateful for every day. And one thing that, and talking about one thing that you want to reach for, a goal you have. And so it gives kids perspective about the future, and it gives kids perspective about the past or about the present. So it really encompasses all 3 of those things. And really taking the time to reinstate all those things that we call pleasantries, because they're really indicative of a space we've created or a barrier we've created. I always say to my students, God and your teachers and your parents and everybody are always trying to splash waters of blessing upon you. And when you put up a wall, then the blessing cannot fall upon you. So make sure that you're keeping your eyes open. So spend time talking to your kids about gratitude, or your grandchildren about gratitude. Just like Alex said, I think you'll help each other rise out of this with a better perspective. on what is important and what is priority. So
thank you all so much. Those are really wonderful tools and wonderful reminders, as you say, of how we can help ourselves and then help others. I'm writing down, and if you notice me looking down, I'm making little notes in my thing because, like all of you, I have a daughter with a bunch of kids and a heavy work schedule, and I'm writing all these things down to share with her because she needs that in her life. So a question that came up on chat for the three of you. Do you have any tools or strategies that you would suggest for dealing with close friends or family who have different COVID precaution levels than you do, or ways to interact? And I know some of us have bar mitzvahs coming up that will raise these issues and other issues. So I'll turn this over to you three wisely.
I could jump in. I think that you're never going to make everybody happy. And I think that is something that we have to understand. But I personally work in an environment where there's a very diverse community of Jews, different observance levels, and it is an Orthodox school, but somehow we were able to maneuver it by everybody just being extremely respectful of each other. I think that's where it has to begin. So with respect to COVID related things, I would treat it like anything else. Find out who has the strictest rules. You know what I'm saying? If they're not going to come to your bar or bat mitzvah, no matter what, don't drive yourself crazy. It's sad, and you have to be respectful of people's wishes and how they feel, because this is something that we all went through together. And so my suggestion would be, let's say they said if everybody was tested and everybody or they showed their vaccination, I'd be okay with coming. Then put that on your bar bat mitzvah invitation and say, please send me your negative test results 2 days before, and I don't know, or send me your vaccination. My son had his bar mitzvah this past year, and we did that, and other people did that that were in his class. That all the boys that were having their bar mitzvahs this year, I sent in all my vaccination cards for my family when we went to their events, and we were very respectful. No matter what you feel, we just have to be kind to each other. Remember what that's like. And I really hold that if everybody took that avenue of just being kind to each other and respectful of each other's wishes, we probably wouldn't have that much discomfort. It would probably be a lot more comfortable, and people would feel a lot more comfortable to be at your event because they trust you because you were kind and respectful.
Alex, Marcia?
That was a great way to put it, Malka. Thank you. I have a bat mitzvah coming up in a few weeks now, and so I'm definitely feeling this question. And I am super immunocompromised. So it's really interesting. The ones who tend to be offended are perhaps not the ones who should be attending, let's put it that way, because I've noticed that when I try to control what's outside of my control, it controls me. So what I can do is I can be the most respectful and forward everybody Zoom links to this bat mitzvah and thank everybody for their well wishes. And only those very, very close are coming. So in these times, for my safety and for those of our older congregants, it's just the way it has to be. And I love when people are very respectful of where we are at as a family. So I think, kavod, respect. That's the answer to so much of this. And to answer respectfully back up, I'm sorry, I can't make it for your bar mitzvah, but I am happy to attend by Zoom or whatever else. So that's been our answer on this end.
Thank you, Alex. Marcia, can we have a final word in a minute from you before we turn this over to Alex to take us away?
Yeah, I don't have anything new to say other than kind of like be respectful, like you said, Alex, and just be open, right? And no judgment. of anybody else that may have, may have different ways of how they feel about COVID and observe. I think that's something that I've even learned during this whole thing is I got to let down that whole judgment thing, because in this whole climate, you can get a little judgy and it doesn't feel good. It's turns into very negative feelings inside. So kind of let that go.
Well, I know that I have the privilege to speak for everyone in thanking all three of you for your wisdom and for participating. And the Jewish Community Foundation is making a grant to each of you for your favorite organizations in appreciation of you spending this time today. So that's very lovely. Thank you, Beth. And Sarah is reminding everyone that we will send out these great resources and tools with a follow-up email. So there's another blessing. And I'm turning this over now to Alex, and I'm really looking forward to this.
And just a really quick thank you to Julie. Thank you so much for being our facilitator. You did an amazing job. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so I have just, I believe 5 minutes. Is that right, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe 7.
Maybe 7. Okay. We're going to keep this in order. So this meditation is kind of an active meditation to kind of energize the rest of your day. So I'm going to have you stretch your arms up and breathe in, look up, and then exhale. We're going to do this 3 times. That was 1. And then catch up. Just inhale, arms up. Oh, notice how it feels good to stretch. Exhale, let the arms flow down. 1 last time, arms up, breathe in, look up, stretch. And then exhale, hands down. So this next part is really interesting. So if you can, we're going to be moving the arms up and down as if we're running, okay? So it's just like this. You can stay seated. Make sure you have your tuchus on a nice firm place. Take a deep breath in. And we're just kind of running, really, just with our top half. Good. Just keep it going. Now, to add a level of difficulty to this, I'm going to have all of you close your eyes and see if you can keep your balance while you're doing this. Just breathe and just notice the movement and how the movement feels in your body. Just tuning into your body in this moment. Just keep breathing. Good. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Notice how your heart might be going up a little bit in rate. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Good. Now move the arms just a little bit faster. And notice how you begin to bounce just a little bit. And that's kind of cool and fun. Keep breathing. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in and put your hands down on your lap. Exhale through the mouth. And just gently close your eyes. And just notice your body. So we're sitting calmly. Your hands are in your lap. Your chin is slightly in towards your chest. The spine is tall. Notice how good it feels to have your heart beat. Notice that your breath can now expand just a little more. Just notice the physical body. Notice where your feet are touching the ground, where your bottom is touching the seat. Notice your shoulders are a little more relaxed. And with your eyes closed, you're noticing that your eyes are rejuvenating and relaxing. Relax your eyebrow. Allow the body to just naturally slow down. And you'll notice that the breath also begins to get longer and slower. Notice if there's anywhere in your body that is calling your attention. And just notice it without judgment. And if something needs to change or shift, do that. And now bring your focus and attention to any emotions you may be having in this moment. Emotions, perhaps like excitement, perhaps, or maybe even frustration, or what else could you be having in this moment? What emotions are coming up for you? Acknowledge all of them. And then take a deep breath in. Exhale long and slow. Bring your attention now to your mind. Notice how your mind really doesn't shut down. It just keeps thinking new thoughts. Notice your mind as if you are a parent looking at a child on the playground playing. Just notice your mind and where your thoughts go. Notice it's pulling you in all sorts of directions. And it's okay. Just keep witnessing the mind and breathing. And then in your mind's eye, thank your mind for always keeping on top of things. And then bring your attention to your energetic body or your spiritual body, whatever you may call it, the higher self of you, the spiritual you, that which is greater. And just notice how that feels. And then begin to notice how it feels to be in the presence of other great spirits. And how amazing and wonderful it is to connect in these ways. Notice your heart again. Bring your attention to your heart. Notice how it's beating strong, hopeful. Take another deep breath in. Exhale through your mouth. And then slowly bring your hands to your heart center. Place your hands on your heart center. Bow your head down to your heart center. Take another deep breath in. Slowly exhale. Give thanks to yourself for connecting in this moment, in this way, and with everyone. In another deep breath. Exhale and let your hands melt down back to your lap. And I invite you to open your eyes again. Are we ready to do great things? I'm Alex. If you'd like to join my meditation, it's at Or Shalom. You can contact Jillian at Or Shalom. They're for free, Tuesdays at 7. But thank you, everyone, and on to greater things.
Thank you, Alex, so much. I hope everyone.
Thank you all.
Yeah, what a way to end.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
hard to go back to work after this.
I know, I'm so relaxed.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you
Have
very
a
much.
wonderful day.
Thank you.
You
Nice
all.
to see everyone.
Bye,
Shabbat
everybody.
shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Shalom.